This is definitely a movie that no one can avoid. Desire that does not hesitate to resort to any means. Love that lasts until death. Blood-boiling righteousness. It has all the elements that should be in the gangster theme. The plot is adapted from the real experience of one of the 3 tycoons in Shanghai. The director uses the perspective of a small person's counterattack, combined with the real historical events of the Japanese invasion in 1937. The Shanghai Bund in the turbulent times was directly brought to the big screen. The story begins with a fruit shop clerk accompanying his boss to catch an adulterer. Cheng Daqi thought he was catching just an ordinary person. Unexpectedly, this person turned out to be the captain of the patrol room. In this way, the boss not only failed to avenge his hatred, he also lost his life. And Cheng Daqi became the scapegoat of the captain. Perhaps it was destined to happen. Cheng Daqi met a person who changed his fate in the cell, Mao Zai. Mao Zai was a senior officer who was specifically responsible for arresting underground party members. When he learned that he could leave safely as long as he obeyed, Cheng Daqi agreed without hesitation. However, he never expected that the man in front of him was a demon, and he had to repay the favor with everything. These people acted not only quickly, but also very cruelly. Before Cheng Daqi could recover, the arrogant captain had already knelt down and begged for mercy. Mao Zai handed over the gun in his hand and asked Cheng Daqi to make a pledge of allegiance. Under Mao Zai's coercion, Cheng Daqi fired the first shot in his life. Before leaving, Mao Zai invited him to Shanghai to develop together. He admired Cheng Daqi's ruthlessness hidden in his bones. However, Cheng Daqi's heart had long been occupied by his first love, and he had no idea about anything else. But when he came out of the cell, the opera house was already empty. Zhiqiu only left a letter. In order to marry his beloved woman as soon as possible, Cheng Daqi brought Xiaopang to Shanghai, vowing to build a future here. But reality poured cold water on him. Like all outsiders, the dock became his place of survival. But it was also here that Cheng Daqi met the 3 most important people in his life, and 2 of them gave everything for him. Seeing Abao being bullied, Cheng Daqi picked up a bench and rushed up, until he beat the man half to death. In this way, a seed of love secretly took root in Abao's heart. On this day, the boss and other gangs fought for territory. With an order, the 2 sides fought in an instant, and the whole dock fell into chaos. With a fierce force, Cheng Daqi rushed left and right in the crowd, but he still couldn't change the situation of defeat. Cheng Daqi rushed forward to save the man he just met. At this moment, he didn't know that this man would be a general in his future expansion of territory. Seeing that Xiaopang was also in danger, Cheng Daqi rushed straight to the enemy's boss. But just when he was about to raise his knife, a gunshot ended the chaos. Seeing that the other party called the bosses over, Cheng Daqi reluctantly retracted the knife. The fat man who fired the gun was called Huang Xiaoming. He was the detective of the French concession police station and the strongest underground person in Shanghai at that time. After this fight, Cheng Daqi won the appreciation of Huang Xiaoming and successfully became a disciple of the Shanghai Tycoon. But what no one expected was that Cheng Daqi did not settle down here. The first thing he did when he came to power was to eliminate his former opponents and firmly control the dock in the hands of his teacher. Then he cleared all the gray transactions in the territory. His approach won the approval of his master's wife. With the help of his master's wife, Cheng Daqi quickly gained a foothold. Abao expressed her love to him, but Cheng Daqi already had someone in his heart, so he rejected Abao. Not long after, he came to Beiping, and he saw the figure he had been thinking about. But just when he was about to take Zhiqiu away, a gunshot broke the silence of the church. Then, a large number of assassins broke in through the window. Cheng Daqi instinctively took out his pistol and fought back. With the cooperation of him and Lin Huai, the enemies were all eliminated before they rushed to the front. But before the 2 of them could catch their breath, Zhiqiu was actually held hostage. Cheng Daqi seized the opportunity to kill the assassin, but Zhiqiu was frightened out of her mind. She could not accept this bloody and dangerous life. Little did she know that Cheng Daqi became what he is now just to get married as soon as possible. The next day, Zhiqiu left, leaving only a few heartless lines. When Cheng Daqi saw her news again, Zhiqiu had married someone else. As the newspaper fell into the water, their love came to an end. In the end, Cheng Daqi chose to love Abao. However, before they officially got married, Huang Xiaoming offended someone he shouldn't have offended because of Xiaolan Chun. When Cheng Daqi received the news, Huang Xiaoming had been imprisoned somewhere. In order to rescue his mentor, Cheng Daqi took Lin Huai into the camp. But Liu Xiaojia, who was vindictive, did not intend to let him go easily. Lin Huai wanted to kneel for Cheng Daqi, but was stopped by a gun. Cheng Daqi knelt down without hesitation. As his body moved forward, he left 2 lines of blood behind him. Seeing that he could not make things difficult for him, Lu Xiaojia proposed 3 conditions that would damage Huang Xiaoming's reputation. The way Cheng Daqi handled the situation afterwards was enough to prove that he could climb to his current position, and it was not just luck. The first condition was that he exchanged Xiaolan Chun for the top performer of Yichun court. The second condition was that he proposed to hold a birthday banquet for Lu Xiaojia's grandmother and to publish the photo in the newspaper. As for the condition of asking the master to leave on his knees, Cheng Daqi also knew that it was difficult to handle, so he decisively took out the bank shares. Unexpectedly, Lu Xiaojia got angry. At the critical moment, Lu Yongxiang's scolding came from upstairs. But what Cheng Daqi didn't expect was that Mao Zai also appeared here. The two of them smiled at each other after not seeing each other for many years. After negotiations, Lu Yongxiang finally took away 50% of the shares. Lu Xiaojia was a little dissatisfied. Before leaving, Cheng Daqi thanked Mao Zai, but he was told that the assassins in Beiping were all sent by Mao Zai. The purpose was to force Cheng Daqi to continue to climb up so that he could do more for himself. After this life-saving rescue, Huang Xiaoming was very grateful. He not only burned the previous apprenticeship letter, but also became a sworn brother with Cheng Daqi in public. So far, Cheng Daqi became the second tycoon in Shanghai, known as Mr. Da. He began to have more and more disciples. Time flies. On Huang Xiaoming's 60th birthday, the rich and powerful in Shanghai came to congratulate him. Cheng Daqi even presented a pure gold smiling Buddha. But when everyone was chatting and laughing, an uninvited guest broke in. This time, Mao Zai brought a message. Zhiqiu's husband was an underground party member, and he hoped Cheng Daqi could help arrest him. Although he was nominally seeking help, his words were all threats. However, Cheng Daqi remained unmoved. But just when he was about to leave, he happened to run into Zhiqiu. They who had loved each other met again, and when their eyes met, they both had a storm in their hearts. The person they had been thinking about day and night was right in front of them, and everything seemed to have happened yesterday. However, things have changed now. Zhiqiu wanted to look back several times, but the warmth in her hand reminded her not to do so. At the moment of parting, she was still dominated by the love in her heart. The eyes of the young man in the past were already full of tears. This glance could not express the regret and helplessness of 20 years, nor could it express the longing hidden deep in her heart. Her husband Cheng Daqi noticed something was wrong. At this moment, longing surged into her heart like a tide. Zhiqiu hurriedly used the sound of running water to cover up the abnormality. A few days later, she accompanied her husband to do something, but she never thought that Cheng Daqi was going to secretly deliver intelligence. Zhiqiu, who was waiting alone, was targeted, and several men in black quickly surrounded him. At the critical moment, Lin Huai appeared in time, and with a butterfly knife, he eliminated all the men in black. Zhiqiu was deeply trapped in fear and couldn't extricate herself. Until her husband came back, she staggered away. In order to ease Zhiqiu's fear, Cheng Daqi took her to the theater. But at this moment, Cheng Daqi just passed by. Zhiqiu secretly came downstairs. His former lover stood in front of him again, and Cheng Daqi had countless words to say in his heart. But Zhiqiu's attitude made him feel like he was falling into an ice cave. Soon after, the bank officially opened. Huang Xiaoming and Cheng Daqi's strength reached an unprecedented height. But then Mao Zai came to the door. He hoped that the two brothers could raise an anti-Japanese team of more than 10,000 people, and they would also be responsible for all the expenses of the team. Huang Xiaoming changed his face immediately. This was equivalent to taking away half of the brothers' family assets. But Cheng Daqi agreed to Mao Zai and donated 2 fighter planes for free. In doing so, he not only helped to defend the country, but also repaid Mao Zai's kindness. But he still underestimated this devil. Mao Zai actually reached his hand towards Abao. Cheng Daqi's patience reached its limit. But before he could make a move, the war came first. Under the bombing of the Japanese, Shanghai was about to fall. But just as they were evacuating, the phone rang suddenly. Zhiqiu sent a message saying that the Japanese wanted to kidnap her, and then she hurriedly hung up the phone. When Cheng Daqi came downstairs, there were indeed a large number of assassins ambushing outside the door. Fearing that Zhiqiu would be in danger, Cheng Daqi went against the current regardless of the obstruction. But when he arrived at the hotel, a bomb just fell. Perhaps he heard Cheng Daqi's cry, and Zhiqiu, who had escaped death, walked out of the ruins slowly. At this moment, Cheng Daqi could no longer suppress his inner impulse, and he ran towards Zhiqiu regardless of everything. The two hugged each other tightly, expressing their silent attachment. And this warm scene was just seen by Cheng Daqi. But the more important thing now was how to escape. Cheng Daqi found Mao Zai, and he hoped that he could help them leave for the sake of donating the plane. But unexpectedly, Mao Zai actually made an unreasonable request. Cheng Daqi was in a dilemma, and he didn't know what to do. At this time, Abao came over. As a wife, she saw her husband's thoughts at a glance, and then she took the initiative to ask to stay. Cheng Daqi hugged tightly the woman who had loved him wholeheartedly since she was 16 years old. Finally, Cheng Daqi gave his seat to Cheng Jiamei and Ye Zhiqiu. With deep reluctance, Ye Zhiqiu left Cheng Daqi again. Cheng Daqi was going to Hong Kong, but Lin Huai did not go with him. 3 years passed in a flash. Because Cheng Jiamei was arrested, Ye Zhiqiu came to Hong Kong and also brought bad news. Now Mao Zai has become a traitor. He not only occupied all the property of Huang Xiaoming, but also threw his master's wife Ling Husheng into the camp to be humiliated. And Xiaolanchun also threw herself into Lu Xiaojia's arms. Huang Xiaoming could not accept the blow and was so angry that he had a stroke on the spot and needed someone to take care of him when he ate, drank, defecated, and urinated. Hearing this, Cheng Daqi clenched his fists, and he decided to make a break with Mao Zai. He returned to Shanghai with Ye Zhiqiu. In order to gain the trust of the Japanese, Cheng Daqi organized a charity performance, and then accepted the invitation to serve as the mayor of Shanghai. After the announcement, Cheng Daqi took the initiative to show his goodwill to Mao Zai. In fact, he was looking for Abao. Little did he know that Abao's eyes had never left him. In the moment when their eyes met, the two of them were filled with too much sadness and helplessness. But for the safety of their loved ones, they could only suppress everything in their hearts. At this time, the scene suddenly rioted. Some people who did not know the truth thought that Cheng Daqi had become a traitor, and they threw food at them crazily. Cheng Daqi immediately protected Ye Zhiqiu in his arms, and Abao could only watch, sad and distressed. After escaping the scene, Ye Zhiqiu took out a handkerchief to wipe the stains for Cheng Daqi, as gentle as when he was young. But this intimate scene made Cheng Daqi stunned. He unconsciously snatched the handkerchief from Ye Zhiqiu's hand. Perhaps the most important person in his heart has changed. The next day, the revenge plan officially began. Ye Zhiqiu was responsible for performing to attract attention, while Cheng Daqi secretly came to the tunnel. As Xiaopeng pressed the switch of the explosion, all the Japanese were attracted to the arsenal. Cheng Daqi and his team took the opportunity to rush into the cell and rescued the dying Cheng Jiamei. However, after he found his sister-in-law, Ling Husheng did not intend to leave. The most important person died in front of him. Cheng Daqi felt very guilty. But time did not allow him to do anything, even taking his sister-in-law's body away. During the retreat, Lin Huai was unfortunately hit. He pushed Cheng Daqi into the tunnel. Seeing that the little devils had already caught up, Lin Huai directly ignited the explosives and jumped up. Mao Zai noticed something was wrong, but Cheng Daqi had returned to the stands. Enemies meet. Cheng Daqi no longer pretends. As the handkerchief fell, Ye Zhiqiu also began to act. The scene suddenly fell into chaos. In the crowd, Cheng Daqi's disciples took out their weapons one after another, and they killed all the Japanese and traitors present. Mao Zai saw that the situation was not good, and he jumped directly from the second floor. Cheng Daqi followed closely. Lu Xiaojia, who had done all kinds of bad things, died under his gun, and Xiaolanchun was shot by a passing disciple. Cheng Daqi chased all the way to the backstage. Seeing that Ye Zhiqiu was held hostage by Mao Zai, he could only obey the order and put down the pistol. At the critical moment, Abao arrived in time, and she pulled the trigger without hesitation, but she was also hit in the vitals by Mao Zai. Cheng Daqi rushed to Abao's side. At this moment, Abao finally waited for Cheng Daqi's belated love. At the end of the film, Cheng Daqi hugged Abao and walked slowly out the door. But a large number of Japanese troops had arrived at this time. Cheng Daqi and Xiaopeng smiled at each other. After he got into the car, he gently embraced Abao in his arms. All along, Ye Zhiqiu was Cheng Daqi's dream. Although separated by mountains and rivers, she occupied his heart all the time. And Abao was Cheng Daqi's person. Although close at hand, she was always blocked from his heart. Love at that time, perhaps it was just the love of one person. When one person loves another person, it must be humble and humble. There is always bitterness in sweetness. Until the last moment, Cheng Daqi finally realized in his heart that the woman he should love the most was her. It's a pity that this moment came too late, because the next moment was death. But being able to realize this before death, perhaps he was already satisfied. Even if he was desperate, he would die without regrets.